And then in 30 days, right, you do that for 30 days or however long, and then you go, yeah, there is an absolute direct correlation between me doing these things, taking this heal, taking this supplement, doing that thing, and the results. If there isn't, stop doing it, but there will be, right? So the journal tells you what not to do as well as what to do and what to do more of and all.
Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, master trainer, and weight management expert, Narado Zico Powell. Today, I have Antonio Garrido on the show, author and leadership coach. So you know what we're going to talk about today. Yes, we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about how to overcome negative beliefs, the importance of leadership journaling, and so much more. I mean, we're going to talk about mind, body, spirit. We have a lot of good stuff to get into today. And of course, have a hack of the episode. And is what is action bias and why it's a leader's most valuable resource. And with that being said, Antonio, welcome to the show, my man.
Hi, Zico. Thank you very much. I'm excited. Stoked to be here. Thank you for the interview. I hope, thank you for the invitation, rather. I hope to bring some value to your audience. I think we've got some stuff that they might enjoy today,
I think so too. This is going to be a very valuable topic because a lot of times, when people, let's say you have many clients, right? And, many who struggle with different things when it comes to like growing their business or even starting their business. And I've worked with people who have said, you know what, I want to do this, but they just don't know how to do it. And they don't think they're going to do it. Or even if you're not starting a business, like in everyday life, they just feel very negative all the time or afraid to do things or don't want to take risk because, and I'll just quick before we start, Antonio, I'm Jamaican, right? And we are very risk averse people. And a lot of times if we say we're going to do something, then you have like 10 different people telling you why you shouldn't do it instead of why you should do it. And these are things that we kind of, I guess the one, for the lack of better terms, are slave to mentally. Like Bob Marley says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery.
Yes, we are.
And with that being said, Antonio, tell my audience about yourself.
Oh, well, honestly, Zico, I'm probably only interesting to me, my wife and my parents, but so I started life a million years ago because I'm ancient, right? But I came out of university as an architect, ran some pretty nice businesses, went back to university, got an MBA in strategic business management, and then ran bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger organizations to the extent that I guess you would call them Fortune 60 companies. I ran a few of those, 4 of those. So with thousands of employees and billions in revenue and all of that kind of stuff. So, and about 15 years ago, I wrote my first book, opened my first business, which is all about in Miami, right? Not a million miles away from where you are, right, sir? And that quickly became probably the 3rd largest sales and management training company in the world. And then I wrote another book, and then this book, my latest book, which is the My Daily Leadership book. And then there's another business associated with that. So I started off as an architect, and now I'm I guess a coach more than anything else. And my wife, interestingly enough, she's a wellness coach as well. So I think some of the things that we're going to talk about are going to be really useful to your audience because if you're going to lead some other people, who do you have to lead first?
Yourself.
Exactly. So let's talk about what it takes to lead yourself, to maximize your own potential, because all leaders are trying to maximize their potential, the potential of their people, and therefore by default, the potential of their business. So we've got models, talk about all of that, but I don't want to ramble on too much. Did that answer your first question?
That answered my question, man. And you're more interesting than you think, my friend. Let me tell you that.
Okay. Okay. Well,
let me ask you this. Let's talk about leadership for when because we hear that word thrown around, right? And we think a lot of times leaders have to be up on the pulpit, screaming at people or out telling people what to do, right?
Yeah.
But in your own words, what do you consider to be leadership?
Oh, crikey. Well, so I know we only have 30 minutes for this podcast, and we'll be here for hours. So, and if you went along to any kind of, Barnes and Noble, if they're still open after, COVID, I'm sure they are, or any other bookstore, you go to the leadership, the business section, and then the leadership section, and there's miles and miles and miles and miles, shelf upon shelf upon shelf of, what's leadership about, what's management about, and all of that kind of stuff. For us, for the model that we developed, or that we've had for about the last 16 years or so, it kind of boils down to, I mean, you could argue, it's the ability to create fellowship, but I'm not, that's a pithy answer, and I'm not really an advocate of that. So let me give you a model of leadership, and maybe that'll point us towards the answer. And here's the thing I'd like your viewers and audience to think about. Well, I'm going to tell you two quick stories. I'm going to give you one model and two stories. Okay, so let's start with the model. Think about maximizing your potential, whether you're a leader, whether you're a manager, whether you're an architect, whether you're a baker, right? Whether you're a motorcycle messenger guy, right? Or an Uber Eats guy, right? Whatever you are, right? Everything from architect to zebra stuffer, right? Whatever you might be, from A to Z. Think about this term about maximizing your potential, and think about it as well in terms of health and weight management and all of that kind of stuff, right? So you can apply this model to any role, into any goal, right? Into any kind of anything that you're trying to achieve. All right, so this, if you can imagine like a square, and it's kind of these are the components, right? So to maximize your potential, to achieve, to get as close to closing that gap between where you are and where you want to be, whatever that is, right? And it doesn't just have to be weight management. It could be anything, right? Anything. Could be how many dollars you got in the bank, right? Depending on how you measure success, and everybody does it differently. But anyway, so wherever you are and wherever you want to be, there's a gap. So how do we make sure that we can close that gap as well as we can? Well, it kind of relies on these four things. And by the way, Zico, if I'm just rambling on too much, kind of scratch your nose or something, and that's code for Antonio, shut your face. Right. Okay. So we've got, all right, in no particular order of priority. First of all, we've got some beliefs, right? We've got some beliefs and values that are kind of locked, these conceptual issues that are kind of those 6 inches between our ears. And some of those beliefs help us out, but some of them are real self-limiting beliefs, and they hold us back. So before we can kind of start to really, really close that gap, we have to really try to understand about which beliefs are helping us and which beliefs are hurting us. So we've got some beliefs and values that we need to think about. And I'm going to tell you a little bit later on how to think about them. But for now, let's just think. So number one, write down beliefs and values. Okay, number two. All right, so you can't just think your way to success, right? You can't just, like, if you're a salesperson, kind of stare at the phone and aggressively wait for it to ring. You can't just, you've actually got to, you can think about stuff, which is great. You have a good attitude, which is great. Good self-confidence and self-belief and all of that good stuff, great. But unless you actually do something, so now we've got to not only take these beliefs and values, we've got to kind of couple them to some actions and initiatives, right? We've got to do some behaviors now. And that behavior could be either get down to the gym or don't put that burger in your mouth, right? So there are some behaviors associated with, we've got our beliefs and values, but on their own, we don't just, I know there are a lot of people that think that, I can manifest my way towards my goals. And listen, manifestation, all right, I'm a fan of, but we've got to have some actions and initiatives, right? So we've got some actions and initiatives. So we've got some beliefs and values we've got to think about, some actions and initiatives, some plans and actions and behaviors and activities we've also got to think about. Then we've got to think about, well, how skillful are we with those actions and initiatives, right? So you mentioned, or we were talking before we came on air, Zico, about the fact that, we are kind of coaches for, leaders and senior managers and all of that kind of stuff. And a lot of the time, we'll agree with them the things that they have to do, but then we also have to agree with them how to get better at those things, right? If you decide you want to learn to play the piano, right? So your your beliefs and values are, I am determined, I'm going to learn how to play the piano. You then actually have to lift up the lid and start doing this, right? You have to actually do something. So you need some actions, right, to start to learn the piano. Then you need to improve your skill at doing this, right? And you do that by repeat, and organized and intentional effort. My son, Alex, he plays piano to a very, very high standard. And sometimes I would listen to him, practicing. I could walk in the house, Zika, right? I could walk in the house and hear that he was practicing on his piano. And just by hearing, I knew whether he was intentional about learning today or whether he was just ticking a box and just getting his 30 minutes in, right? But when he was just ticking a box to get his 30 minutes in, he would just play and play and play and play and play and play and play. When he was trying to actively get better, he would play just maybe 2 or 3 bars and then stop and then think about it and then reflect and then think, maybe I should. And then he would do it again and maybe do it slightly differently. And so there's a difference, right, between just ticking a box, just turning up at the gym and doing some squats, right, or actually being very intentional and determined about it. Okay, so now we've got 3 things. Is this making sense so far? All right, so we've got some beliefs and values. We've got some actions and initiatives. We've got some increasing skill and technique. And then the 4th thing is emotional intelligence, right? And self-awareness. So what does that mean as far as, closing this gap, whatever this gap is? Well, oftentimes we have either an over or an underinflated sense of our own capabilities, right? And oftentimes it's hard to take critique from someone, right? And it's hard to tell someone they've got an ugly baby at the same time, right? So who's going to tell you? This is the advantages of coaches and personal trainers and those kind of guys, right? Who are objective about saying, yeah, it's good, but this needs some work. So now we've got some beliefs and values, got some actions and initiatives, we've got some skills and techniques, and now we've got to have some self-awareness. We've got to build some self-awareness. If we build self-awareness and emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence helps us, it helps things like impulse control, right? Do I have to have this extra burger? Do I have to watch the rest of this movie, and could I watch it tomorrow? Would a good night's sleep help? Do I have to have this glass of wine? Would a glass of water do instead? Do you know what I mean? So we've got these 4 components, whether it's for leadership or anything else: beliefs and values, behaviors, actions and initiatives, skills and techniques, and then the self-awareness and emotional intelligence. If we can help address all of those 4 areas, well, then this starts to happen, right? That starts to happen. So the question then is, how do we do that? But I'm going to leave it at that for now and see if you have any questions. Maybe your question is going to be, how do you do that? But it may be something else. So rather than just keep rambling on, over to you.
You have me thinking, because like the first question I asked, you kind of led into, you have to start by leading yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And the 4 things that you just described also talks about you leading yourself. Yeah. Like I've worked in departments or, different places where people have told me, you'll be a good leader. And I said, but I don't like to lead. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to do anything like that. They're like, you're misunderstanding. You're thinking leadership is you got to stand up and tell everybody what to do. I mean, you're a leader because you go out there and you give 100% every day and people see it. and people want to replicate it. Some don't, and that's their issue. But a lot of people follow for that reason. And so yeah, it starts with yourself. I talk about even my body. I'm 40 years old. I'm in the best shape of my life. And, my health is actually the best of my life I've ever been in my life. I don't take any medications anymore. I was told you I had COVID, felt like the flu to me. Like, but the reason why I would say I do these things not to brag, even though, it's going to sound I'm a semi-narcissist, but not to brag, right? That's just a running joke. I mean, my friends, but it's because I want to show people what can be done. I'm not just telling you, hey, take this, do that, do that. I'm showing you, hey, I'm the best version of myself. You can be the best version of yourself, right? So leadership starts with you and what you do. I get up early every day. One of the first things I do is I have a morning routine where I journal and I read, and sometimes I play guitar. I start my day off very slowly before I even get into work or start talking to clients or thinking about work. I don't pick up my phone first. I train 6 days a week, sometimes twice if I have the time. But these are things that I love, and I want to show people, hey, I don't do these things because, let me put it back up and say it this way. I've talked to a lot of people who think, eating healthy and working out is a drag, right? But I tell them I actually love doing it. I have a lot of energy. I feel so much better. I'm at a height of my health that I've never been before. And I want to show people, hey, you can also be there. So again, leadership starts with you. Now, enough of that, because I want to talk about something else, because I purposely said journaling because I know we're going to talk about that next, right?
Can I just add to that before we jump on, and then you can ask me your question. So I was talking to the CEO of a $38 billion organization. So with a B, not an M, with a B, right? And he was bemoaning the fact that he had this to do and this to do and this to do, like a whole, like an enormously long list of things to do. And I was trying to talk to him about his stress and work-life balance and all of that kind of stuff, right? And there's a lot to do because he has a lot of responsibilities, and I get it, right? And I said to him, okay, when was the last time we did this? When was the last time you took off some time, watched the kids play basketball? When was the last time, right? So we were like asking those kinds of questions. And then I said to him, and we talk about it in the book, actually, I then said to him, well, I won't give you his real name, so let's call him Bob. That's not his name. So I said, hey, Bob, remember, if you don't find time to prioritize your wellness, or if you can't find time to prioritize your wellness, you'll be forced to find time to prioritize your illness. So which do you want to choose? You're making a choice every day. So I just wanted to make that point that, and also just to address your other point that, no, you don't have to have CEO on your business card to be a leader. People follow people that, there are unofficial shop stewards all over the place, right? So he doesn't have to say CEO on your card for you to be the leader of your group, your church, your team, your department, your division, your family, your friend. It doesn't have to say that, right? And you can develop that leadership skill by using that model that we talked about. Okay, good. Now
100%. No, that's good. That's a really good follow-up and very good summary. And with that being said, let's talk about leadership journaling, though.
Yeah.
So, like, what really is it, and why is it important?
So journaling is so critical, right? When anybody says, yeah, I want to improve X, and you say, oh, great. Or I have been improving X or Y or whatever. You say, okay, great. Let me see your journal. And they don't have one. Don't believe them. It's that simple, right? Every single, I don't know who's your favorite. Well, I'm asking everybody, but I'm also asking you particularly, Zika. But who's your favorite sports star?
My favorite sports star?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
I know.
I would have to say Kevin De Bruyne, who plays for Manchester City.
Plays for Man City, my team. Okay, good. So one of the best players on the planet, right? Of 8 billion people on the planet, he's like one of God's gifted and talented and determined individual. Okay, terrific. What does he do every single day? If he's not playing, for the team against somebody else, every single day he's trying to get better, yes or no?
Yes.
And he's one of the only guys on the planet that can say to himself, I got this, right? I figured this out, right? But he doesn't. Every single day, he works with the coach, he works with his trainers, he tries to get better every single day. And if anyone can take a day off, it's him. But he doesn't. He works every day. Now you got to think about chicken and egg, and that's a whole different conversation for a different day. But here's the other thing. Any famous, successful anything, not just a Kevin De Bruyne, they journal, right? It's no coincidence. My first big position, the group CEO asked me, he said, hey, Antonio, do you journal? And I said, no. And he said, oh, why? And I said, probably because I'm not a 16-year-old Victorian schoolgirl, right? Which is what I thought journaling was all about. And he went, okay. Well, go and find the 10 most successful people you can in any frame, any walk, any part of life, any size, the most successful people you can, and see how many of them journal. I got to 8. I found 8 people. I'd asked all 8 and they all did. And I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this. My daughter, one of my daughters, my middle daughter, I have 4 children, middle daughter, Grace. She used to swim for the UK or the British Olympic. She was in the British Olympic swim trial. She was a swimmer, right? Big swimmer. So every day she would practice things. She would practice tumble turns. She would practice diving in off the blocks. She would practice certain strokes. She would have races and times. And every day she would practice some stuff. Well, where did we keep a record of all these things? Where did we keep a record of what she ate, and how much she slept, and what her times were? And we wrote them down, because you can't just keep them in your head forever. So what were we doing? By any other name, we were keeping a record of this stuff. We were journaling, correct? And then she was writing down how she felt about the day and what things she needs to think about. I need to pay more attention to this. I need to pay more attention to that. Well, that's all we do with our leaders, right? The people that we lead, the CEO. Every day we say to the CEO, give yourself a score for today. How well did you do with your goals today? Were you A+ or were you C- or were you an F? And if you go, well, I was probably a B-. I go, okay. So what could you have done differently? What should you have done differently? When you said this, what could you have maybe said that would have been not a B-, but an A-, right? So that constant reflecting on how you feel, what you did against those 4 things, those beliefs, those actions, those skills, and that self-awareness thing, constantly think, how am I doing? How am I doing? Am I closing? What could I do more of? What could I do less of? What should I have done? What shouldn't I have done? And just stick them in a journal. Just write them down somewhere. And that over time becomes your record of doing this. It's the only way. And don't just think it's me that does it and my daughter. Every president does it. Every Kevin De Bruyne does it. Every Michael Jordan does it. And if they can do it and they are the best around, then you can do it too.
I want to hit on that a little bit, because from the fitness standpoint, because I've talked to people who said, I don't want to track my food. I don't want to, I don't want to track this or track that or whatever. And I've always told people, I said, look, especially when you're getting starting out, like, you have to have a journal of what you eat, because then you will realize your calorie intake. Then you start realizing your macros. Then you start realizing how many things that you're eating that you didn't know you're eating.
Right.
Like, sometimes we just snack and we don't count.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't count that in. And you start tracking your sleep quality, because that impacts your overall health. And something else that's helpful that may not be written, but it's like filming in the gym. Like, when you do a workout and you film yourself, you realize what your form actually is, right? Which is another way of journaling, because it gives you a way of recognizing, hey, what you did and then how you've improved over time. So I think journaling is definitely important. And from the mindset of leading yourself so others can see you and follow your work, you have to get better yourself, and journaling is very important in that, and it's definitely changed my life. Now I'm gonna say this because it's off topic than what we're talking about, Antonio.
Okay.
But can you see the plaque behind me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you know what it is?
Is
It's
it?
Man City's treble plaque.
Oh, no way. Nice.
Yeah, so Manchester City treble, won our
Yeah.
first treble ever won.
Just
So shout out to my team, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Pep Guardiola.
nice.
You know, I love my team. So I gotta give a quick shout out to my team right
Nice.
there.
Hey,
But
Zico, you'll have to give me your I got a bunch of guys that we watch the game with, and we'll WhatsApp each other and all that. As we watch, you must watch the games, right?
yeah, of course. All right. We're gonna get on that. We're gonna get on that. So now Antonio and I just became lifelong friends. So that's pretty
Yeah.
much awesome.
BFF.
Now, with that being said, let's take a quick break and let's talk about one of my favorite companies. Let's talk about the Aminoco. They produce Heal, right? Which is 100% science-backed essential amino acid. It's designed to reduce recovery times and improve physical function by accelerating muscle repair while helping you maintain a healthy inflammatory response. Now, those are a lot of words, right? So why is that important? Well, what's inflammation? If inflammation is created in many ways, and one of the ways is when you train, when you work out, your body does create inflammation. When you feel sore or your muscles get achy and tired, that's a result of inflammation, right? So Heal has essential aminos and creatine and whey protein concentrate, which your body can utilize to help you to recover from that inflammation. Not just recover, but help you to build more lean muscle. I should just say muscle. I will always say lean muscle. Muscle is actually lean, but get my point, right? So I actually love Heal. How I personally drink it, honestly, is like in the middle of my workouts, more like an intro workout to kind of bang out the second half. Because, when I train, your boy goes hard in the paint. So I need that extra push, right? So I love Heal. You should definitely check it out. In fact, there is a recent clinical trial that compared 1 and 2 scoop amounts of Heal with high quality whey protein, and the net balance whole protein synthesis and breakdown were measured. And the response to Heal was found to be 3 times larger than whey protein on a gram-to-gram basis. Now, again, why is that important? It doesn't have a lot of fillers that whey protein would have. In addition to, because it gives you the essential aminos, because it gives you the creatine and the whey protein concentrate, your body can essentially absorb it immediately. And that's why I love it. That's why I use it. It was initially designed for NASA, and they then reformulated for regular people like myself, even though I was always consider myself regular, but the point is beside itself. So, but so they reformulated it for us, and it's absolutely banging. In fact, if you're recovering from an injury and you want to, you can't really train, well, Heal can help you to retain muscle mass while you're doing that and possibly recover faster, depending on what the situation may be. So check out Heal. I absolutely love it. Their website is aminoco.com/Zico Health. You click on there, you get 30% off. See that? See how nice I am? I give you 30% off Heal and also Perform, which is another one of their products that I absolutely love. And because, I try to be a nice guy, I'll make sure that the link is in the description of the podcast. And with that being said, enough about Man City, enough about Heal. Let's get back to the regular schedule program.
Well, can I just add a couple of things to that?
Yes, go ahead.
So, and just what you said before that, when you said, people say, yeah, I don't want to journal, da, 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 da. Sometimes, we have to be cruel to be kind, a little, right? Not just for the sake of just being cruel. And people that say, well, I don't want to do this, and we'll make another suggestion. Well, that's not really me. Then we'll make another suggestion. We go, well, I tried that, but it's not worked, right? You get to the point where you say, hey, look, hold on, time out for 1 second, right? If you want a different output, right? If you want a different result, whatever that result or output is, if you want it, there's a big if. You might say you do, but do you, right? But a different output. What do you have to do to the inputs, right? Because same inputs equals same output. So unless you change those inputs, you're not going to get a different output. We all know that madness is doing the same thing again and again and again and hoping for different results, right? So if we want a different output, we have to either change the inputs or change the quality of the processes, right? There's nothing, or we go to Hogwarts and get a Harry Potter magic wand, and that works too, if you can find your way to the station to get on the train to take you there, right? So people that say, yeah, I don't really want a journal, we say, well, then see ya. So we coach people all over the world at all levels. And if they don't send us a photo of their journal, we won't coach them, right? And we coach, and my coach, for example, so you probably have a coach too, Sika, right? But my coach, he coaches presidents of countries as well as presidents of companies, right? And he's the same. If I don't journal, he won't coach me. And if the people that he coaches and they're presidents of companies and countries don't journal, he won't coach those either. So, you got to be, if you're serious about changing the result, you have to be serious about changing the input. All right, last point, the heal thing that you were talking about. So this is a perfect example of, if every day you're writing how you feel, not only mentally, but physically and spiritually, how well the grit and determination you had to put on your pants and go to the gym, the intentionality you had in the gym, the 2 more reps or not, how quickly you recovered, all of that good stuff. You just write that in your journal, and then you start taking heal. And then in 30 days, right, you do that for 30 days or however long, and then you go, yeah, there is an absolute direct correlation between me doing these things, taking this heal, taking this supplement, doing that thing, and the results. If there isn't, stop doing it, but there will be, right? So the journal tells you what not to do as well as what to do and what to do more of and all that stuff. So I was just making that point.
That's 100% true. And that's a really good way to kind of put everything in, put everything all together. That's absolutely true. And with that being said, let's talk about emotional intelligence, because you talked about it like earlier in the episode, right? So how can a leader build levels of emotional intelligence?
That's tricky. So in the 1980s, so a quick story behind it. Some people listening may not even know what emotional intelligence is. Some of them may be, very familiar with it, right? But I think it was the 1980s, towards the end of the 80s, Coca-Cola, right? So not a small company, right? But Coca-Cola, who have hundreds of offices around the world. It's not just Atlanta and that's it, right? And they've got loads of different divisions, loads of different brands, right? It's Coca-Cola, it's Fanta, it's, lots and lots and lots of stuff, right? Somebody wanted to try and figure out, why are all of our successful people, what's the difference between all of our successful people in divisions and organizations and the ones that aren't doing so well, right? So they started looking, and remember, if Coca-Cola place an ad, right, in Indeed or wherever they place an ad, right? If Coca-Cola place an ad and say, hey, we're looking for a new, head of a division, if we're looking for a new accountant, if we're looking for a new, and is Coca-Cola, how many applications, how many applicants do you think they get? Thousands, right? They've got their pick of the crop in the world. Same with Microsoft, same with Google, same with, right? Those Gillette, Kellogg's, those big brands, right? If they advertise a job, they can choose anyone they want practically from the thousands and thousands of applicants. They can choose all of the guys with the Harvard and the Princeton degrees. They can choose all the guys with the best experience and all that kind of stuff and the smartest guys around. So Coca-Cola thought, is there any similarity between all of those divisions that are really performing well and those divisions that are performing poorly? And there is. They expected that all of the well-performing divisions and managers and leaders, right? They had assumed that that's because they were run by the smartest guys we've got. And all of the poor performing ones, they assumed that's because they were, run by the biggest doofuses we've got, right? So that's what they assumed. But that's not what they found. They found that all of the performing brands, markets, departments, divisions, all of those people, the leaders and the managers, they all had high emotional intelligence. And all of the ones that weren't performing all had low. There was a direct correlation. So we all think the smartest guys, get all of the opportunities. They get all of the breaks. They get all of, that's not true, because they've discovered that emotional intelligence is 3 times, 300% more of a barometer of success than IQ, right? Than book smarts, than degrees and school. And some of the most successful people I know, man, they're dumb, right? They don't know much stuff, but why are they successful? Because they have high EQ, even if they've got low IQ. And IQ, right, your intelligence, that's pretty much stamped on your DNA when you're born, right? You're born with a level of IQ, an ability to read, an ability to learn, and an ability to conform to the school system, right? That some people have it and some people don't, and the lucky ones do and the unlucky ones don't. The lucky ones have had good breaks and the bad ones have had bad breaks. That's all BS. The most successful people have got high EQ, and the brilliant thing about EQ is you can change it. You can develop it, right? It's not stamped on your DNA. You can actively work towards it. So the beauty of EQ for me is that you can improve your EQ and see your life change. And where's a good place to track all of that? In your journal. So now you're going to ask me what EQ is, right?
No, actually, no. Like I wanted to talk about really, because now I'm going to take the show in a little direction that differently than I was planning to. For the sake of time, I was going to talk about action bias, but I really want to talk about EQ, right? Okay. Because I think EQ is going to be very beneficial for a lot of people. So explain, like, in layman's terms, like, how can someone say, okay, I can develop my EQ and I need to develop my EQ, right? But how do I do that?
Okay, so good question. So, well, EQ is, I guess, at its heart, it's the ability to manage your own emotions. It's your ability to recognize the effect that you have on others and the effect that others have on you, and the effect that you have on circumstances and circumstances have on you. So do you remember I said that your journal builds self-awareness? So every day we're looking at our self-awareness. We're looking what our gaps are. So I did, just before I went to the Super Bowl final that we were talking about when I caught COVID, I did a talk to about 400 leaders. And I said, I asked everybody, I said, hey, by a show of hands, who here has no blind spots, right? Who here has no blind spots? And thankfully, Zico, nobody put their hands up. So, okay, terrific. Good self-awareness. Everybody recognizes they've got some blind spots. Terrific, says I. Okay, now just take a second and write them down for me. And then everyone was suddenly, like shrugging the shoulders and shuffling their feet, because we don't know what our blind spots are. If we knew what our blind spots are, they wouldn't be blind spots, right? So how do we figure out what our blind spots are? Well, by building our self-awareness. How do we build our self-awareness? Well, by starting to write down every day how we feel about things and what's going on. And when I said that, I should have said that. When I didn't say this, maybe I could have said that. So that's number one. Number one is self-awareness. Number two, because there's 5 components, by the way. So number one is self-awareness. Number two is self-regulation. Self-regulation is, how do you control yourself when something goes bad, when something goes wrong, when something is unexpected, when somebody does or says something that you weren't expecting? Do you go bananas, right? Do you fly off the handle? Do you throw your arms in the air and you go, this is bullshit, right? Or do you have the ability to manage and control your own emotions? That's called self-regulation. Nearly every single person in prison, what's the one common denominator of nearly every single person in prison? They have low self-regulation, right? Because They've just done something dumb instead of thinking twice and cutting once, right? So number one is self-awareness. Number two is self-regulation. Number three is motivation. Understanding the things that motivate you and things that motivate others. So we have to have a good understanding of the 12 levers of motivation. If you want to know what they are, grab the book. The fourth thing is empathy, right? And empathy doesn't just mean just feeling sorry for everybody, right? Empathy is the ability to see things from the other person's perspective, see things from the other person's point of view. Most of the time when people do something weird, it's because they've misunderstood what you're trying to say, right? Or you've expressed yourself poorly, which means that your self-awareness and self-regulation again is low. And then the fifth thing is social skill. So when you were saying earlier, being a leader isn't just standing on the platform and giving speeches to people, right? So some people have that high social skill where they're good at talking from a platform, but not every leader is. And a lot of leaders aren't, right? The best leaders we think are really gregarious. They're not. They're often very quietly, softly spoken individuals who have a passion about something, right? Which is good. And we should all be passionate about something. If you don't know what it is, get your journal out and start figuring that out. But back to your original question, the 5 components of self-awareness are emotional intelligence, self-awareness, learning about yourself, self-regulation, figuring out how you emotionally respond to things, motivation of yourself and other people, empathy, and social skill. Make sense?
That's absolutely perfect, and that's what that's what I was looking for.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's something that's extremely important. And you're right. I'm friends with some great leaders in the health and fitness industry, and I mean they have thousands upon thousands of people, if not millions of people that will follow them, and every single one have high EQ. Every single one. Everyone. They may be dumb for all I know, but I know they have high EQ. I know that much. My friends will come after me because now I'm calling them all stupid. But
my father, Zico, listen to this. My father, he was a Spanish immigrant. He was a shepherd in Spain. Never went to school a day in his life, right? Because none of his brothers did, none of his family did. There were no schools where he grew up. And he couldn't read or write. He's 90 next week. I'm going to Spain to his surprise birthday party next week, right? So can't read and write, effectively doesn't know anything. Doesn't know facts and figures like you do and I do. We know the moon goes around the earth and the earth goes around the sun. We weren't born knowing that shit. Somebody taught us that stuff, right? So he doesn't know anything. And yeah, he successfully, from nothing, grew and ran 5 really successful businesses. Why? Because he has high EQ, but his IQ is on the floor. He doesn't know anything, right? But he knows people, and he knows himself, and he knows how to motivate staff, and he knows how to work towards a goal, and he knows how to schmooze people with good social skill, and he can measure his own responses to things, right? He's high EQ and he knows nothing. And that's a perfect example of how IQ is the least important thing and EQ is the most important thing. How to develop EQ? You get yourself one of these.
That's right. And you know how to develop EQ? Go get the book. And with that being said, tell my audience, how can we learn more about your work? How can we get your book, so on and so forth?
Thank you, Zico. You can get my book anywhere you get books, right? So Amazon or wherever. And it's available in book, in print, and electronic audio. This is my 3rd book, and I recorded the audio for this book. So if you want to hear more from me, jump on Amazon and just get the book. It's My Daily Leadership. And the website is www.mydailyleadership.com. There's loads of free resources on there. There's like a 30-day journal you can download. There's health tests to take. That's business health tests. It's even leadership and self-awareness and emotional intelligence tests that you can take. So www.mydailyleadership.com. If you want to chat to me about anything, just connect to us, send me an email and somebody will get it to me and I'll talk to you as soon as I can.
Perfect. So we're not just going to talk about Man City. We're actually going to talk about leadership. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. With that being said, Thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you for watching. This is a fantastic episode. If anything that you missed, I want you to go back to the section where we talked about EQ and the 5 steps towards EQ. I think that's going to be very beneficial for you. And enjoy the rest of your day, fam.
Cool. Thank you. See you soon.